How's everybody doing? You don't sound so sure. Let me ask it again. How's everybody doing? Okay, good. I'm so delighted to be here together with you. As I walked into this room, I felt that it was such a special opportunity, a special occasion. We've come from so many places, and we have the opportunity to be together, to breathe together, to walk together, to eat together, and to share together for the next few days. Isn't that amazing? And yet, while we were invited by Michael to share what brought us here, we haven't yet had an opportunity to actually turn around and to greet each other. And so I would like us to stand up. That was easy, wasn't it? Stand up and let's just turn around. If we're in the back row, we can keep facing forward, but let's turn around and just greet the person behind us, somebody near us.
Nice to stand up.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And when you feel ready, please sit down. All right, let's have a sound of the bell. So once you've finished greeting those behind you and around you, if we could take our seats. I'm so excited of some of the discoveries I've made even today. As we were walking back to our accommodation, we walked past a medicine garden. I saw the plants that were growing in that garden, and I realized that they were growing in a symbiotic relationship. Here, during these days, and in all of the different areas that we work, we exist in a symbiotic relationship. We live and we practice in relationship. So I invite you to be aware of the ways that we nourish each other and that we're nourished during these few days. This will be a really powerful element that we bring to this time together. I've had the opportunity to be in this form, in the monastic form, for over 2 decades. And one thing I've discovered is that it is an invitation for people to share all kinds of things and ask all kinds of questions. A few years ago, I was invited to teach a class at the University of Montana in Missoula. So I was walking on the campus, heading to my classroom, and a guy was walking on the other side of the road, and he saw me, and he did a double take, and he ran over the road and came right to me and said, "I've got a question for you." Part of me thought, oh God. And then another part of me was really excited because my tradition is based on questions. The Buddha just, for most of his teaching, didn't just share whatever he felt like sharing. He was asked a question. So I made myself available to that young person, and he said to me, "What's the meaning of life then?" Yeah. And I thought to myself, what a good question. But that's not the best question. Because it assumes that there's some meaning out there that I or we are subservient to. Another way, perhaps a more empowering way to ask that question is, how do I bring meaning to my life? How do I bring meaning to this moment that I'm sitting in the chair? How do I bring meaning to this moment that I'm sitting in traffic? That's a thing in Southern California I don't know about here. How do I bring meaning to this moment that I would normally consider to be just nothing at all? Those moments can be the most powerful moments of our life. And that is what this energy that we call mindfulness or present moment attention allows us the opportunity to do, to create meaning in our lives. And that's not something that's a little deal. That's a big deal. That's amazing. That's a miracle. Our bodies are great teachers. Is anyone up for an experiment? Yeah. Good. If you had said no, I would have gone a different direction, but I'm glad you said yes. I would like to ask you, right now, without thinking, point to your mind. Okay. So when I look around, so many of us are pointing here. Great. Now what I'd like to ask you to imagine, or bring the experience into your body, is imagine you're in a class with me. Perhaps I'm teaching something quite difficult on changing your DNA through mindfulness, or something difficult and simple at the same time. Something really complex, whatever that subject is for you. And imagine I am about to call on somebody in the class and ask them a difficult question. And so I call on your name and you say, "Who, me?" Now, in your mind, as you say, "Who, me?" point to yourself. Look around and see where you're pointing. In our modern society, we tend to live above our nose. We consider somewhat, or we've been trained to consider our mind as something that's up here. Whereas when we point to ourselves, we point to the center of our being in the area of our heart. Mindfulness is not an intellectual activity only. It is an embodied presence. Mindfulness is a translation of the Pali word sati, or the Sanskrit word smrti. And it was first suggested as a translation for those words in around about 1860. It's a valid translation. However, the original terms come from a very different cultural perspective. The seat of consciousness in the Vedic philosophy of the Buddha's time was not seen to be the brain as we would tend to see it today. It was seen to be the heart. There are many reasons for this, and I don't have time to share them this evening, but a very simple reason was the ancients considered that if your heart stopped beating, you wouldn't have much longer to be aware. So the heart was seen to be the base of our awareness. It is equally valid to translate sati or smrti as heartfulness. If I use the word heartfulness, for most of us, that brings us down into our bodies. It brings us into the center of our lived experience. Rather than mindfulness being a concept, a theory, an idea, we immediately come down and get into contact with what's going on in our body. Not from somewhere outside, but right from within. And that is the invitation of the Buddha. Mindfulness of the body from within the body. Mindfulness of our anger from within our anger. Mindfulness of our thoughts from within our thoughts, not from somewhere over there. In my own tradition, one of the great teachers, Master Rinzai, said that there are so many people who can walk on the air and walk on the water. Walk on the air of ideas or the water of daydreams. There are very few people who can actually walk on the earth. Walking on the earth is a miracle. The physical act of planting a foot on the earth is a miracle. We're usually doing 2, 3, 25 things at once. Walking on the earth outside, but also walking on the earth of our lived experience. Heartfulness can be a medicine for our time. When we're so caught up here, there are so many things to be anxious about. There are so many burdens that we're carrying. There are so many difficulties in our society at this moment in time. Coming down to the area of our heart, out of the realm of ideas and concepts, into the realm of being a real human being, can be the most powerful gift that we can offer to ourselves and to the world around us. So an important question to ask ourselves is, what is my situation? What am I embracing in this moment? If we can answer that question, then we know what medicine is right for us. There are so many different practices that have been offered, both in the clinical setting and also in the contemplative settings, and in educational settings, and in government settings. What is the medicine that is helpful for me? Don't be somebody like me. I love Chinese medicine. I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it. I like being around it. In 2001, I had the chance to be on a cooking rotation with a friend from Taiwan. She was cooking Chinese medicine. I was very tempted. And I said to her, "What are you taking?" She said, "I'm taking this Chinese medicine. It's called black chicken, white rooster. Would you like some?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love some. Of course, I'm going to take some." So she poured me a bowl, and I started sipping away at this Chinese medicine. And it only occurred to me after I drank half of the bowl to ask her, "So what's the medicine good for?" She said, "Women's problems." So I didn't have those problems at that point in time. It was good medicine. I enjoyed the taste, but it wasn't necessary for me at that point in time. So you may not need black chicken, white rooster. What is your situation? What is the medicine, the practice that's helpful for you at this moment in your story? The mindfulness is described as being immediately useful, immediately effective. If we want to become happy, we want to become peaceful, we want to become whatever, it's not something that, in our way of viewing, we attain sometime in the future. We walk in such a way, we breathe in such a way, we sit in such a way that that which we're looking for is available to us right here and right now. In the year 2000, I was asked to teach in Australia. I traveled from Plum Village all the way over to Australia. We in Plum Village always try to find the cheapest tickets. So I flew from Bordeaux to Paris. I had 6 hours in Paris airport. We flew from Paris to Dubai. I had 4 hours in Dubai. And then we flew from Dubai to Ho Chi Minh City to Saigon. And I was locked in a room with Chinese opera playing for 10 hours. And then flew to Sydney. By the time I arrived there, it was 40-something hours of continual travel, and I will never forget myself walking up the stairs of where I was staying, carrying 2 bags. Those bags felt so heavy. When I put them down, instinctively, I just went, ah. I felt amazing. I came back to my body, back to my breathing. All of the stress of that long trip just melted away, and I realized that that is exactly what we're cultivating when we cultivate this energy of presence. The capacity to experience an ah with every step, with every breath, with every mouthful of food. That it's not something that we attain after 10 years of sweating through t-shirts in the winter. But how can we breathe in such a way that we experience it now? We think we know what it is to breathe. We think we know what mindfulness is already. We know all the theory. And that's wonderful. And now, during these next couple of days, let's take the next step. To experience our breath, to experience our feelings, to experience our bodies as if it's for the first time. That's a miracle. If we're able to do this, then this time together will be really transformative. It can be dangerous to think we know everything already. I'm always quite confident with my view. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Plum Village for the first time in 7 years. I've been quite busy in the interim traveling around, so I had the opportunity to go for 3 months. In Southern California, where I live, there's not much grass. It's very dry. It's at the edge of the desert. So I enjoyed walking on the grass. I enjoyed particularly this lotus pond, that's up near the monastic residence. And every time I walked by it, I enjoyed looking at these 2 ducks that were floating on the pond. I would walk by and I would sit there for a few minutes just enjoying the ducks. And I noticed after a little while that the brothers were gathering behind and kind of sitting near me whenever I'd sit there, and I'd share with them things like, look at those wonderful ducks, and isn't nature wonderful? It's just so, they love each other so much, they're always together. And after a little while of sharing the story with the brothers, I noticed there was some tittering going on as I shared it. And finally, after close to 3 months of me being there, one of the brothers said, you know what, we've got to tell you something, Brother Phap. We've been seeing you really enjoying those ducks every day. They're styrofoam. So what's the styrofoam in your life? That's my question for you as we embark on this journey together over the next 2 days. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me.